Dr. Anthony Harper here in Wyoming with Patrick Klein of Vision Beyond Borders. Thank you, Pat, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Harper.
So fill us in about what Vision Beyond Borders first is all about.
Okay, our major priority is getting Bibles to people around the world that have either never heard the gospel or are in persecuted countries that don't have access to Scripture. So that's our main priority. But we've also been sending containers overseas to help the refugees, the Syrian and Iraqi refugees. We also work to rescue girls out of trafficking. We have sponsors for pastors and also for children's ministries and working to rescue kids off the streets and get them into safe houses, orphanages where they can grow up and be taught the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Okay, you have a serious concern about what's going on in Burma.
We do. You know, a lot of the media is not reporting what's fully going on in Burma. Yes, there is a huge humanitarian crisis with the Rohingya people. But the problem is that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are behind the scenes. They're trying to establish a foothold in the country of Burma or Myanmar. And so what's happening is the leaders of Burma, they can see what happens in other countries where ISIS and Al-Qaeda start working. Before long, the country has so many terrorist attacks and they try to make an Islamic country out of it. And so they're saying we don't want them there. So the Burmese military is trying to get rid of the ISIS and Al-Qaeda. What the ISIS and Al-Qaeda have done is they've used the Rohingya people, which are more of a nominal Muslims, they've used them as a human shield. So yes, there has been some atrocities. Yes, people have died, people have left as refugees, but the media is not reporting that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are working behind the scenes, and they're using this Rohingya situation to make it a humanitarian crisis. And so the UN and everybody's putting pressure on Burma to establish an Islamic province or state. And they're like, we don't want the Muslims to get a foothold in our country because we don't want to become an Islamic country in the long run. And so it's very frustrating because the truth is not being reported.
It sounds a lot like me, for me, for about the Hamas,
Yes.
you know, and hiding behind, you know, situations with hospitals or whatever,
Right.
and using
Exactly.
people for their purpose, human shields issues.
Yes.
There's another concern about, you know, Christian persecution around the nation, around the world.
Right.
And this pastor was recently released from Turkey.
Yes,
Pastor Brunson.
we're really grateful to see that he's been released. We were praying for him. We're really thankful for our president taking a strong stand and working for his release. We are seeing persecution increase around the world. In China, you know, hundreds of pastors have disappeared. They put them in what they call black jails, which is they are killed. They're never heard from again. Thousands of people, Christians being put in re-education camps. Just even last week we heard a report that kids are being forced to renounce their faith in Jesus Christ or they cannot stay in school. So we're seeing widespread persecution. Churches are being destroyed left and right. One church that was even a government church with 50,000 members was demolished. They destroyed it. And so we're seeing more and more persecution. We're seeing China on the move. And I think it's important as Americans that we realize that China is not our friend. China says by the year 2049, they want to be the world superpower. Now, if they're the world superpower, will the rest of the world be under communism like them? I think that's what their whole goal is. And when I was in Hong Kong last year, they actually said on the front of the paper in Hong Kong, they said that the Chinese premier said, we want to get rid of all foreign influence in China, and China wants to take a more active role on the world stage. And so we're seeing China on the move. They're pushing their way into Vietnam, Laos, Burma, actually even into Cuba. The Chinese premier was there a couple months ago and actually visited the grave of Fidel Castro. And so that's way too close to home. And I think it's important that we as Christians be praying for our brothers and sisters, but also be aware of what's happening.
Well, that was brought up at the Values Voter Summit recently when I was in Washington, D.C. General Boykin and Lieutenant Colonel were talking about the threat of China, them being more aggressive and how serious this issue is.
Yes.
So, and really a sad situation is that America has kind of led the way in helping build them up economically.
Exactly. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in America think it would be a good idea for China to be the world superpower. I totally disagree. I think if you put a communist government that oppresses their people, kills Christians, burns Bibles publicly, you put them in charge of the world as the world superpower, the rest of us are going to live under horrible oppression. And I think it's important that we wake up and say, and tell our government, we want to see China kept under wraps and pushed back, and that the United States needs to be the leading force in the world.
You know, what has made countries flourish is the freedom that is found in our Declaration of Independence. I remember
Yes.
about the right of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness,
Right.
which isn't happening in these communist countries.
No, you know, if you download the Bible in China onto your phone or mobile device, you can go to prison for that. And they're actually deleting them off of people's phones, their mobile devices. The persecution is increasing more and more, and we're concerned it's gonna spread throughout Asia, and wherever China has a foothold, that they're gonna start forcing their ways on everybody else, that everybody will live under communism. And I think I'm thankful for America, because America has stood for freedom for many, many years, and we have really worked to bring freedom around the world. If they can take down this country, they can take the world. And so I think it's so important as Christians, especially we get out and vote in the next election, in the next couple of weeks, primaries, we need to be voting. We need to be standing for righteousness. We need to be praying for our president on a daily basis, and for the cabinet, and for Vice President Pence. We need to be praying and standing up for righteousness everywhere, because we see liberalism, which is not just liberalism, it's fascism. And it's trying to destroy the foundations of freedom in America. And once they take this country, their goal is to take the world.
Oh, it is a very serious concern that Dinesh D'Souza recently has, made very clear in that movie Death of a Nation about fascism and this removing of all the rights, and really the hate for Christianity and the Judeo values.
You know, I believe, Dr. Harper, that the middle road is disappearing. Either you love God or you hate God. And people that hate God are not afraid to say it anymore. Whereas years ago, they kept quiet. Now they're right in your face and saying, we hate God, we want to get rid of all scripture, we want to get rid of all mention of Christianity, and they're determined to destroy. And I believe that we're in a spiritual battle like we've never been before. And I'm thankful that our president is supporting Israel, and that he's really moved the embassy to Jerusalem. I'm thankful for that, and I thank God for President Trump. Because had the other person got it today, I think America would be a totally different country. I think the church would have gone underground and would have been really persecuted. So I'm really thankful for President Trump. I'm not saying he's a perfect man, but I pray for him every day. And I think we as Christians need to stand with him and encourage him and pray for him, and let him know that we are in favor, and we're grateful for what he's doing.
Yeah, so we're blessed to have a different leader that's not politically correct,
Yes.
that is supportive of Israel and our religious freedoms.
Yes.
For more information about Vision Beyond Borders, how can people learn?
They can go to our website, which is visionbeyondborders.org. That's BORDERS, borders.org.